Hello everyone. In the time that I've owned this particular Fiat Panda 100HP, it's safe to say I've done a lot to personalise it and enhance the look of it. For example, I've added this Fiat graphic on the windscreen with tricolore flag underneath it. I've changed out the centre caps on there because they're all rubbish and fading. Indicators, they've all changed because they're all falling apart. The indicator bulb on the front, changed those out for Silverline ones because I didn't like the orange look that sort of gave it a blushy cheek look. The badge halo, number plate surround, around the back of the car. We've changed out the rear badge and vinyl wrapped the Panda 100HP badge in tricolore colours. We've added a couple of stickers from tracks we've been to so far in this car. On the interior front, we've added a steering wheel cover, a new sort of gear knob style as it were, well basically a little cap on the top in case you weren't familiar. We've also added a new gear gaiter which freshens it up, it's new nice leather with a little stripe down it, and we've added a little Fiat rubber mat in the windscreen, well dashboard basically, so that if you put your phone on there it's not going to slide down and out the window when you go around a right-hander just that little bit too enthusiastically, because that would be terribly inconvenient now, wouldn't it? But under the bonnet we've also done a bit of work to enhance the look as well. Under the bonnet here then, what have we done? We have painted in the lettering and numbers on the little airbox cover. We've also painted in the bolts on the cover just to make it stand out a little bit more. We've painted the bolts for the bumper as well, so they look a little bit fresher and less rusty and rubbish. What else have we done? We've also cleaned up the induction mod by Cooperman and also added a little bit of a vinyl wrap style in carbon just for the sake of making it look a bit better because it was all scratched on there from previous ownership and things like that. But I think we can enhance under the bonnet just a little bit more. We've added these little things under here because what they do is give a little bit of a contrast of colour. So obviously the red and the white, they go very well against the black. The black little bolts here, they go very well against the red bumper, which is absolutely fine. It helps the car stand out just a little bit, even if it's just subtly, at a car show. And for those of you who watch this channel, you will know that I do like going to a car show and, well, in the easiest words, showing off the vehicle. So basically, what I've done to enhance the engine bay a little bit more, because I still think there's a bit too much black plastic under here, such as the tubes, obviously the airbox, battery cover, ECU cover, covers all black and yeah. Looks pretty much the same as any other. So what I've done is had a look at other car scenes for inspiration and ideas as to what I can do to enhance the engine bay just a little bit more. And that sort of brought me to the blue oval scene. Yes, Ford. Because what some people with the Fiesta scene have done is actually quite clever. You see, what they've done is they've managed to find one of these little boxes on the internet. Usually these are about 15 to 20 pounds depending on where you find them on the internet. And what it is a 4-stud Lego box. I mean, you can actually build things out of it because, like the little Lego bricks, it's designed to fit together, which is absolutely wonderful, very creative and very clever. Well done, Lego. But the thing is, what the people in Ford have done, or the Ford scene, is they've disposed of this bit because that's not necessary and kept the lid. And they've used the lid to make a battery cover. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing with the Fiat. We're going to turn this little Lego box lid into a battery cover for it. The first thing we want to do when looking to place our new little box on top of the battery, or box lid even, is just make sure we know exactly what's basically going to be obstructing it and what we need to cut out. So immediately I can see these little things here. These are going to obstruct because I can't just take those, well I could take that off, but I want it to be fairly easy access to remove and things like that. Also I'd imagine the edge of the ECU cover is going to get in the way. Yes, I am holding a torch as well. But also you want to make sure there are no moving parts of the engine bay which are obviously going to hit it and cause issues basically. So down here is most likely where the movable parts are. And I can see a little bit of one down there possibly. Not entirely 100% sure, but basically I don't want it to be touching down there. In terms of size, I'm going to have to definitely cut into the box lid somewhere roughly here, wherever it gets placed. We'll obviously size it up in a minute. And in terms of coming out here, it needs to sort of sit against those little studs there, so there's a bit of cutting to do. Time to size up the lid then, so let's just put it on over roughly where we want it to go. And that is going to fit. As I said, it needs a little bit of cutting, so We're going to have to cut a little bit out here, so let's just put a marker with a pen on there. I'd say roughly around about there. Might not need that much, but you never know. In terms of height, I can't determine that just yet because it isn't sitting flush, but I think once we get rid of that little bit, we will have a good idea. And I think, in terms of fitment, I mean, it doesn't have to be exact because you're not going to see this bit on the back anyway. There we go. Right, let's get to cutting. So the tool I'm going to be using for this is a rotary tool with a little cutting disc on the end, and because I'm not entirely sure exactly how much needs to be taken off, I'm going to take a little bit off at a time and then just place it up against it just to see whether I need to take a bit more off or if it's enough. So without further ado, we should start. But first, safety glasses, because of course if any of this flies up, you don't want it going into your eyes. The rotary tool was chosen for this job because many other tools, such as a jigsaw or angle grinder, would have been way too rough for the plastic, which is only thin and therefore liable to cracking easily, which, let's face it, would not look very good now, would it? That's that corner out, not neatly, but we can always tidy it up a little bit. Anyway, you're not really going to see this back side of it anyway, so yeah, let's put this against the car and see whether I need to take any more off. As it would turn out, yes, quite a lot more needs to come off. Because there is no online guide on how to do this, much of the fitment process is trial and error. It involves a lot of cutting out of little bits of the box lid and then placing it into the engine bay and seeing where else needs to either be cut out or trimmed back a couple of millimetres. This side's fitting pretty well, and this side's now fitting pretty well, and that is going exactly over where it needs to go over. So basically what we need to do now is just allow it to go a little bit lower. Excellent, right, this is a good start. Off camera, just marked up the little areas which need to be cut out, so nothing more to say on that really, just cut it out now I suppose. As I said, this is all being custom done to fit this particular car. It will obviously work in other Pandas as well, but not looking too bad so far. It's not pretty at the back as I've said, but we'll tie that up later on. We're just going to make sure we clear everything basically. And that's the main job at the minute, tidy it up later on. We marked up where that little pipe just down here needs to go just along there, so that's what we'll cut out next. New gap cut. Let's see how that fits. It did fit over the battery and over the cabling quite nicely. It was a snug fit. In fact, it was too snug. The question now is, what's it sitting on that's pushing it back up? Something down there? No. Something here. That needs to be a bit taller, I think. I said this process was trial and error. Admittedly, it is quite a repetitive process, cutting, fitting, then cutting the lid over and over and over again, but the end result will be worth the wait. A little bit of the ECU cover down there, so what we need to do is just take a little bit more off that, I think. If you have a look at this tiny little piece here, you can actually see just down there where it was rubbing, so a little bit more did need to come off evidently, so I've taken maybe a little bit too much off, but it doesn't matter, it's all being done custom fit anyway. Using the various engine slimes that will likely stick to the lid when placing and removing it several thousand times can help you find whereabouts in your engine bay the lid is coming into contact with things such as pipework, plastics and other engine goodness. This can be used to direct you to where you need to cut and trim the lid to fit. Where it needs to be cut has now been marked out, just up there. Let's cut it out. Something new on the front of the battery was stopping it from sitting over properly. This is why this cut had to be made. Lego lid is in. Doesn't seem to be touching anything particularly, although it is in there nice and securely. Let's just see if the bonnet shuts. Evidently, it does. That's a success. So let's open the bonnet back up again. Seems to be fitting in there pretty well, I think. The final step in this aesthetic mod is smoothing off the rough edges. I started by using a small piece of sandpaper, which wasn't great for getting into the smaller gaps and kept moving the plastic a little too much to be massively effective. So, in comes the hero of the day, the rotary tool. This time, kitted out with a sanding wheel which made light work of the edges. And here is the final result. I'm rather pleased. So this is now fitted inside the car, and of course the bonnet does close as we've already seen. So in terms of actual fitments and things like that, I would call that a success. There was a lot less cutting required than I actually expected when I went into this, because I thought there might be a tiny bit more here and there, and although it does raise up and down like that, I'm not too worried about it, particularly because I'm only going to be using this when I'm at a show. It won't be in the car all the time. However, if you decide you want to keep this in your car all the time, just keep it looking fresh and all that, you can indeed do that, obviously provided it's not touching any moving parts. As I said, I got this from the Ford team, but as you can see I've just fitted it to a Fiat, so yeah, it seems to work on multiple vehicles as well. So if you fancy making one of these, the lids and the box themselves do come in a variety of colours, and as I said, they're usually somewhere between £15 and £20 on the internet. I got this off eBay for about £18, so just to give you a rough idea of cost. In terms of the looks then, I think it actually freshens up the engine bay quite nicely, especially for shows and things like that, which of course is going to be its primary purpose. So I'm going to wrap up this video here, because it was only ever meant to be a short video just showing the process behind how I made this fit in the car. So thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like. Comment down below, and of course if you want to see more car-based content, feel free to subscribe, because of course there'll be plenty more of it coming in the future. Thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you in the very next video. Farewell.